She is an author, an educator, guest speaker, host of screening series on the history of fashion in film, and an expert for media organizations like, oh my goodness, my favorite channel, the Turner Classic Movies. Her new book is called Film Noir Style, The Killer 1940s. It is a great pleasure to welcome author and everything else she does, Kimberly Truhler, who is with us right now, and I got her book right here. Oh, Kimberly, welcome to the show, and congrats on a great new book.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
Kimberly, the book is fantastic for people that love fashion, people who love film, but you really did, you cued in on 20 definitive film noir, iconic films, obviously, and the women involved that really, the fashion defined them, and I learned so much in regards to why the costuming was like it was. Tell us a little bit about that and the women that were involved in this genre.
That's a big question. I think a lot of the backstory is that World War II brought in rationing, and a lot of people aren't aware that rationing impacted fashion as well, the apparel industry. And so costume designers in Hollywood, though they had infinite resources, they really tried, especially in the world of film noir, to create costumes that both reflected what the mainstream America was wearing, as well as still provide some aspirational glamour.
And I love the fact that for all the glamour, people like Ava and Veronica Lake and Gene Tierney, Stanwyck, all those, the guys just, the trench coat becomes the thing. And it starts with Bogart at ground zero, according to you, and the Maltese Falcon.
Well, you know, it's interesting because for a long time, I always envisioned him in a trench coat and Maltese Falcon, and the trench coat doesn't really appear for Bogart until Casablanca in the following year. It's really Alan Ladd who breaks out the trench coat even earlier, but certainly Humphrey Bogart is the one with the fedora trench coat combo that basically becomes a uniform for all the leading men of film noir.
And Kimberly, your book is not only visually gorgeous, everyone should have this on their coffee table, but it also is, you really do, as they say, intellectually tackle the reasons why this genre was so popular and really did change the face of fashion for sure in Hollywood, well, around the world.
It did. I mean, the European couturiers, you know, basically got cut off from the rest of the world. About 60 of them stayed in business, but they were only able to sell to and promote to, you know, a lot of the collaborators of the Germans. So Hollywood became the source for trends in America and certainly around the world. And it had already been a trendsetter in the 1930s and even the early and late 1920s. But 1940s, it was all Hollywood.
And Kimberly, it's interesting, you mentioned in your book, and I didn't really know this, but you talk a bit about the Allies, the Western world comes out of World War II, there's this prosperity, but because these movies were made around the end of World War II, you get this period from the end of the war into the 50s where you think everything's great and prosperous, but these movies are flourishing, these dark, shadowy, black and white films, but audiences really got into them, yeah?
They absolutely did. I mean, you know, one of the things you mentioned, the women in film noir, and, you know, it's interesting to watch the backstory of women through the 1940s and how their roles evolved in the workforce, for example. And so the strong women that were throughout film noir, whether they were good girls or murderesses, they really signified a shift in women, you know, at that time.
Kimberly, I love how the movies also take, in the beginning, the woman is very innocent, she's dressed very conservatively, and as they move through the films, standardly, she gets a little bit more edgy, as do the clothing. It's just stunningly done, and your book just outlines it so beautifully. So thank you for writing such an incredible book.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to hear that feedback. It makes me very, very happy.
Hey, we should mention, there's some great people that I'm glad that you like, as I said, I just, people out there looking to Dick Powell and his work, and Richard Widmark, and also a movie that I didn't really know a lot about actually before we go, Kimberly, and that is Wake Up Screaming, which is another one of those landmark movies that you mentioned. So there's so much out there, and we should say, Kimberly, we've got some copies of your book to give away. Lita, how can they win?
They can win by following us on either our Facebook page or our Instagram page, and just write us a little message to say, I want to win film noir.
Kimberly Truhler, thank you so much for joining us, and best of luck. I know you'll be out on tour with that book once things get back to normal. And again, look for Film Noir on TCM, that great movie channel, every weekend. Kimberly, thanks.
Thanks for having me.